Hello everyone, my name is Nicole Miyuki and this is Let's Make Art, and we letter a new project every week. We have a step-by-step tutorial for you to learn and join along. So this week what we are doing is this guy. Oh. Open my mouth. So we are doing, it's called Stop, or the quote is Stop Wishing, Start Doing, and this is a quote that I love that I thought would be great for this project. And one of the things that we're going to learn, well, actually, before I get through the steps, I want to show you the supplies. So we have a subscription box that if you have that, you have all the supplies already ready. If you don't have that, I want you to use whatever you have. You can use any color. The fun thing about this is that whatever strikes your fancy, you do it. But what I'm going to be using are, there's 3 colors, and I'm using the Tombow dual brush pens. So the first one is, oh, I love these. 443, this is Turquoise. Then 873, this is Coral. And 533 is Peacock Blue. So those are the 3 that we're going to be using. These are brush pens. What it is that if you've never used these before, they have a taper tip at the top and they're wider at the bottom. So they mimic a brush. So that's what a brush pen is, and they have ink already in them. That, and then the final project is going to be on Bristol paper. So this is essentially a thicker cardstock. It's a lot smoother. If you're familiar with watercolor paper, I suggest to get some Bristol paper so it's smoother, so it's easier to glide with your brush pens, and then they won't fray as fast. And then I'll also be using, this is just a paper that I like. I like to use marker paper. This is something that you'll see me use in the practice sheets. You can also use tracing paper, or you can use any different type of marker paper, but that is also good to have. And then a pencil and eraser. Oh, and I forgot, I created some practice sheets for you all. And on here, these you can download on our website, letsmakeart.com, and you can click and you can download those for free. And that's all we're going to do to get started. So when we're looking at this, the final project, when you are looking at this, you might not notice something, or it might not be as obvious to the eye, but what in this project, what we're going to be learning about is angles. And so if you look at this, the first step we're going to do is I want you to be aware of the angles. So you might notice that all of these letters are standing up straight, and so the angle's like that. And then on this one, the angle's more like that. So I'm going to help you to notice that. So that's step 1. Step 2 is where I'm going to have you using these practice sheets to help give you tools to be able to do this on your own. Step 3 is we're going to do a pencil, and we're going to lay out the entire project so you don't have to worry about making it perfect on the first try. And then the 4th one is using the brush pens. So when you are going through this, what I want to show you is, if I draw out angle like that, and then if I draw angle like that, you will notice that they look different. To the eye, you might not be able to know why that's happening. So what I want you to do is I want you to take your pen or pencil and actually move it across so you can see which angle you're drawing at. So all of these letters are following, like I said, a straight up and down angle, whereas these ones, if I were to do it, it's more like this. So everything that I drew was on this angle. So I'm going to draw my little tick marks just to show. So this is something that what I'd like you to do is pause this video and go back and find any lettering that you've done before and see what you do. Maybe you're in between, or maybe I want to like lean over. You draw a lot more leaned out. Your letters are leaned over more. Neither is right or wrong. It's just something that while we're going through this, I want you to be aware of what's happening, because I think so often we just go on autopilot and just draw cursive or write cursive, and you think that's the only way you can write. And I want to challenge you to see if you can switch it up. So that's all step 1 is becoming aware of what you do, and then we're going to try and do the opposite of it so we can train those muscle memories. So step 1. Step 2 is, like I said, we have these handouts I created. that you can use. So you will notice that there's one that they're more straight up and down lines like a grid, and this one's angled. So what I want to also say when it comes to angled letters, you might be familiar with italic letters. So if you were typing, italic letters is where they're slanted. Also in traditional calligraphy, a lot of the letterings is usually slanted. Technically, I've heard that it's around like 50 to 55 degrees. It's like a very specific degrees. I'm not a math person, so I remember when I first learned that, I was like, I don't know how to draw my letters exactly at that angle. So what I did was I tested different angles, just what felt right, and I gave it to other people to test out. And this, the only reason why I know this is I made this on Illustrator. It's a 70-degree angle. This is not a rule book on the way you have to draw. I just wanted to tell you that if you're like, what angle is that? It's 70. So. I
mean, I could have told you that.
You could have told me that? Not like 65?
Well, I mean, let's not get hung up on the details.
Okay, so again, I am using marker paper. This is my favorite marker paper. If you watch the beginner lettering series, you will hear me talking about it. And we do have these on our website. So I'm going to place this over. And so what I first want you to do, actually, pause. I'm going to have you do one other exercise first. Can you, if you want to use these angles, you actually can. But what I first want you to do is draw ovals all straight up and down. Doesn't matter if they're perfect, I just want you to draw ovals. And actually, this is a good thing for you to practice. If this is your first time with us, we have, like I said, a beginner lettering series that goes over how to use a brush pen. And in that, I'm talking about thin on the up, thick on the down. And so what that is when we're creating lettering, that's what creates that look, is it has thin and thick lines. So this will be good practice actually for you to go through when you're doing this, is think about thick on the down and then thin on the up. So you'll notice that brush pens just bounce back really easily. So you can push as hard as you want. So I'm going to push down and use the belly, and I'm going to use the tip of the brush pen to get thin on the up. So practice that, doing them all straight up and down. And then what I want you to do is, if you want, well, you can give yourself some guidelines if you want. I'm going to try and draw all my ovals at that slant. So what I want you to try and do is draw all your ovals leaning over just a little bit. So again, thick on the down, thin on the up.
What is that, like a 75-degree angle?
I was like, I don't know what, this feels a lot more, maybe. So whatever angle you end up doing, just draw them a little bit more slanted. So that's the first exercise I want you to go through. Then, like I said, you have these grid lines that you can use, and I'm going to have you first start with the angled one, because I would say typically most people end up writing more like this, and they want to actually write like that. But if you're in the other camp, you can switch. But I want to show you first how to do it at this angle. So if I place my marker paper on it, I can see these lines underneath, and I don't want you to get so focused on making them perfectly aligned. What I want you to think about is making them parallel. So if I think about it, and I'm gonna have this right here, my oval and an angled oval. So let's try and do some of the ABCs. So if I do an oval, I'm gonna make it a slanted oval, and then I'm gonna make the other part of my a thick downstroke, and I'm gonna make it parallel to this line. So I'm gonna go thick on the down, thin on the up. And then when I make my B, make it parallel to this line, so it's okay that it doesn't match up exactly. And then I'm also gonna make my oval slanted. So what often happens is that if you do your B and you make sure your downstroke is straight, just be mindful to not make a straight up and down oval, because then it will feel a little bit off. So if I were to do it again, and if I want to make an oval, that's more like a B. But what you would actually do is thick on the down and then draw a backward C. I just wanted to show you that. So that's why that feels a little bit different. And actually, referencing the beginner series again, so as we're practicing this, which will be really good, is you will notice that on these, which you can also download, are there different strokes. And so each of these strokes make up the ABCs. So you keep this going. So, well, this is obviously a C by itself. So
is that what comes after B?
ABC, yes. And then a D is a C. So that plus this guy. So just a thick downstroke. So again, I'm going to make it parallel to this line. So thick on the down, thin on the up. Then I'm going to do an E. So again, all of my letters, I'm just trying to follow this slant. And then it helps to have these lines here as your guideline if you like. So keep going through that. And then if you want to, when you're done with that, if you want to, you can then try and do the same thing, but have them all straight up and down. And for this one, I want to reference lefties because I know that there's a lot of lefties, especially in this group. And I really want to help you all figure this out because I don't want you to get tripped up and think that you can't do this because I know that you can. I understand that there are some things that are a little bit different. So I've been testing it out and I'm obviously not left-handed, so I'm trying to get better. But what I've seen and what has worked for me is I'm still trying to figure out what the best angle is, but I've been angling my paper and I still experiment with down or up or underwriter or overwriter. Is my hand okay, Keenan?
Your hand is okay, but your shoulder is also in the camera.
Okay.
I don't know how you're going to get the side shot.
Well, maybe you could just
with lefties.
The one thing that's difficult. You can just do the overhead shot. So you can tell, you can see which angle I'm coming at. So thin on the up, whoops, thin on the up, thick on the down, thin on the up. Oops, I'm supposed to draw my angles upside down. Oh, so that's this, I was starting to draw angled just naturally, but I'm trying to draw straight. So I need to draw a straight or standing up oval. So thick on the down, thin on the up. Again, I'm coming parallel to this line. Thick on the down. I'm shaking. Thin on the up, thick on the down.
Your grip is also just a little different.
Whew, really?
Uh-huh.
It's interesting that you can, so, and this is something I'm glad you're bringing, have a battle. Yeah, so everyone's grip is a little bit different. When I grip right-handed, which I love that Keen's bringing this up, I tend to grip closer. If I'm left-handed, I'm trying to think. This is something that I want you to experiment with is some people I've seen it's easier for them to grip higher. For me, it's easier to grip a little bit closer, at least when I'm right-handed. But when I'm left-handed, I'm still experimenting. So this is something I want you to experiment with. But I can still get a thin and thick. So the other thing I want you to figure out is if you attack the letter from the top, then you just might not be able to create such a thick downstroke. So can you see that versus if I angle my hand a little bit more, I can get a thicker downstroke like that because I'm able to use more of the belly. So that's another thing to experiment. That's not bad for I'm working on it. I'm trying for you lefties because I really want to empower you to do this. But the beautiful thing that you saw is that especially on this marker paper, it doesn't smear. So you don't have to worry about that. So those are the two exercises I want you to go through is doing your complete ABCs and using these two as your guideline. Then, pull my notes over. Okay. That was step 2. Step 3 is we're going to do the project now. And this, I like to do things in pencil first. If you want to go for it and just do the brush pen, then by all means go for it. I just like to kind of set things up. And so I want to walk you through my process. So for this one, the final project is, it looks like this. And actually, I'm going to call this to attention. Again, like I said in the beginning, now that you know what to look for, I hope you all can see now that you notice that all of these letters are straight up and down, and all of these ones are more angled. So I wanted to make it different, and it's kind of cool. It's like stop wishing, halt, and start doing and going with the flow and doing it. So that's why I decided to do that. But you can do either one. You can do all straight up and down, all angled, whatever you want. So what I want you to do is once you decide is make your own guideline. So if you want, you can either use a light box and use this underneath. That's another tool. Oh, I can kind of see through. But if you don't, you also can just draw your own guidelines. So you can choose to either draw your tick marks on top, or if you want, you can also draw your tick marks in the inside, like I kind of to mimic the same thing like you're doing. So I'm going to, and the other just kind of layout tip that I can give you is I gave you this big grid and we are doing 2 words on the inside. So what you could do is, because we know that stop is a little bit shorter and wishing's longer, if you want, you can also kind of set yourself up and maybe it's like right there. I can try and fit stop and I can try and fit wishing. That's my, well, we'll see. This is how you kind of experiment. And this is also why I like to do it in pencil first. But so when I'm doing this, I am, oh yeah, that works. So stop. So I am following all of these strokes especially are straight up and down and G. Another tip that I can give you all is, if you notice this, most of my letters kind of fell on, this was my line that all of these, the X height, which is all the lowercase letters fell under. You can dictate it. So if I were to do this again, or I'm going to show you the difference.
Nicole?
Yes.
Would you be willing to pull your paper up and to the left a skosh? There you go.
Yes, thank you. If I were to mix it up, just so I can show you all, if I made my X height a little bit lower, this is the way that you can experiment and make it different. It doesn't really, actually, well, I'm just going to show you. It doesn't make too much sense because this word is already at this height, but if you want, that's how you would manipulate it. So that has a completely different look. It doesn't really make sense for this project, so I'm just going to and do it over. But I just wanted to show you as you all are kind of designing your own. Pretend that they're all like this. So wishing. Also, one other thing, I tend to draw my S's like that. If you want, you can also do them like that. That's totally personal preference. Wishing. Okay. And then, so for the second box, I'm gonna make these all angled. So again, let's see if I can kind of mimic this. I'm going to draw, maybe I'll draw them here. Just give myself some light guidelines. Can you see those, Keenan?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
If you move your hair on your left shoulder,
look at my hair.
Little hair flip.
Thank you. So you can tell on my S's, this one's straight up and down. The S's are probably an odd thing. I'm going to lean it over a little bit. And also I know that, so start doing, these are similar sized letters, so it could just be in the middle about. So I'm going to angle that a little bit. So start, oops, that was really close. Start doing. So all of my downstrokes, oh, that one lined up perfectly. Maybe we'll make this all the way like that. And then I cross my T's. So a fun thing with your T's is, you noticed on this one, I decided to curve them to kind of fill in this space. You can make them straight, whatever you'd like. The main thing that we're focusing on for this project is the angle, like I was saying. So this angle's like that, and this angle's like that. So that is my guideline, where if you do, so many things in here. Oh, this is the fun pouch that comes in our box. But that's what I'm using. Okay, so if you like to do the process that I like to do, which is using the light box, what I suggest to do is, once you do this, is I would go over this in a darker marker, just so that you can see what's going on. Or what you can do is, let me just write this quickly. Stop. So also, I realized that I have all this space right here because the G's so low right there. So I'm going, maybe I'll mimic and I'll do a similar, ooh, fun noise. Oh, actually, this is good. This, I don't want to critique myself because I don't want people to get so hung up on this, but I noticed is that I angled this G. So what it actually is supposed to be is like that. So I'm going to ignore this. Hopefully I can remember that. My G is supposed to be like that. Hope that makes sense. But I was going to say, if you don't have a Sharpie, you can also use this as great practice, and you practice your thin on the up, thick on the down. So also, I should mention this paper that I'm using, it's a thicker, it's like nicer computer paper. It's called HP Premium 32, or you might see it as HP Premium Laser Jet. It's great paper because it's really smooth, it doesn't bleed, and it's nice on these pens. So I like to use that.
It's so soft. It's like a laminated paper without being a laminate. Oh, I just love it.
Keenan loves it. Thanks, Keenan. So this is a great time for you to practice actually before you get hung up on doing the final one. So when you're doing this, you also notice, if you haven't already, make more room, is that because I am right-handed, I tend to angle my paper a little bit more because it helps me. And it's interesting because you're drawing at an angle rather than you might be used to this. Maybe you have to angle a little bit more when you're drawing at an angle, but that's for you to experiment with, and the main goal is that you feel comfortable. So like I said, it's experimenting with your grip in the beginning, especially if you're left-handed, and also the angle of your paper. So you can also talk to yourself and say, thin on the up, thick on the down. Thick on the down. And then the other thing I want you to remember is I am taking it stroke by stroke. So that's a way, oh, so I like to curl my T's like that. Okay, so I'm gonna do the final one just so that we can keep moving on. But I wanted to show you this is a great way for you to practice. So on the final guy I am using Bristol paper, like I said. This is a thicker cardstock paper. And what I'm going to do, oh, Keenan, can you help me find, oh, never mind. Tape, got it, found it. Oh, I realized I need to make this darker for me so that I can see. So if you don't have a light box, a couple hacks. One, oh, so I need to angle this. Life hacks, a window. If you have light shining through a window, you'll be able to see through. You will just be having to write straight up and down or standing up. So if you're okay with that, that's a good hack. Hack number 2 is using a casserole dish and putting it upside down. So then you have a flat side, phone underneath so it's shining through, and that also, because the whole thing is that it's just creating light underneath. The other thing which is really bad that I don't recommend, oh, you can use an iPad too. In dire need, I don't know if I've said this before, I've used my computer and I've flipped it upside down. Don't recommend that because I'm sure it's not good for your computer, but hey, sometimes...
That scares me for your computer.
I travel with my computer and it's done good to me. Yeah. But again, sometimes you just gotta figure it out. So, oh, putting this underneath, and the cool thing is that then I can kind of line it up, make it centered. So what I'm doing is I'm just taping my final to my template. And this is why I really like using templates. Again, if you just want to use a pencil, you actually can. The only thing is just to note is that if you look at this really closely, is that if I were to do it in pencil, you might see through because these are pretty transparent, these pens. They're water soluble. But if that doesn't bother you, it's totally fine, and I want you to do it. Okay, so.
Can you push that up just a little farther?
Yep. Am I good spacing-wise?
Perfect. What'd you say?
Okay. Am I good spacing-wise? Yeah. Okay. So I'm using 873, the coral. So while I'm doing this, I want to talk and explain a few other things, is that you can dictate, ooh, fun noise, how thick you draw. So in addition to the angle of your brush, you can experiment with is you can also see how much pressure you want to apply. So I'm going to apply a lot of pressure just to get a really thick downstroke. So thick on the down, then on the up. But if you didn't want that, you can just press kind of medium. Maybe it looks like that. And if you, this is a good thing to stop and look at, as I wrote stop. If you look at this and you notice, if you were to see this, you can tell that these are a lot thicker, obviously because I was just talking about it. But what you can do is you can just go back and make it a little bit thicker if you notice it afterwards. And no one will ever know. So that makes it a little bit thicker. So I'm going to keep going. So I'm making sure, okay, all of my letters, because I'm drawing this one, is more straight up and down. So you will notice I'm drawing it a lot slower. So thick on the down, then on the up, thick on the down. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was I did talk about the foundation strokes, which, where is that? Just so I have that out for reference. While you're doing this, if this is your first time lettering with us, I really want you to take it stroke by stroke, and I want you to lift your pen up. So when you do that, you draw this one stroke, which is like this guy, and then I'm gonna draw an N, which is this guy's the first N. So I'm actually gonna overlap a little bit and then draw like that, rather than if I were to, what did I do? I did an I. So if I were to draw like that, and then if I just start exactly at that point, it's a little bit more obvious. Oh, I touched that too soon. It's a little bit more obvious where that connection goes. So what you can do instead is draw that and then overlap it a little bit, so it's a more seamless transition. So that's a little tip. I'm just gonna keep going. So again, thin on the up, thick on the down, thin on the up. Here's a C, and then I need to remember to draw my G. So when you're doing such a long stroke, that is so much for me. So if you have to lift up, that's totally fine. And maybe if you also, because I know what I'm drawing, you can kind of cheat a little bit and you can draw it the other way if that's easier for you. And just kind of overlap it back up. That totally works. I like to cross my eyes, or cross my eyes.
Cross my eyes and dot the T's.
I'm gonna start saying that for now. Dot my I's. And I like to curl my T's, but you can also draw a straight one. Stop wishing. And then I'm gonna use the turquoise. So again, I'm gonna angle a little bit more. I'm gonna go thick on the down.
Could you give us a quick hair flip, Nicole?
Oh, hair tutorial?
Thank you. Hair tutorial?
Something I definitely did not do.
Coming next from Let's Make Art.
Thick. Oh, I lost my concentration.
Sorry.
No. Like, what am I saying? Thick on the down, thin on the up. And so the other thing that, well, this is another example. If you want to stop, you can do a C, then I'm going to overlap a little bit and then do the L, which is the other part of the D. You also, well, I'm going to show you, even though it might not make sense, is you don't have to follow this straight line. If you accidentally mess up and your eye is a little bit smaller, for example, that's totally okay. You don't have to follow the straight line. And I actually usually don't anyways. So I'm gonna make this angled. So I'm gonna, another thing that you can try is if you're better, especially if you're new, or if you're from the watercolor group, you might wanna use your whole wrist instead, or your whole arm instead of your wrist. I tend to draw stationary because I feel like I have more control. I don't even know if I can do this. So what I mean by that is if you're drawing the G, what might be more comfortable for some of you is drawing a G like that. which that wasn't too bad, I guess. But what I tend to do is I stay stationary and I draw like that. Did that make sense?
It does make sense.
Yeah.
You plant your wrist.
Plant.
And you use your hand and wrist rather than use your whole arm?
Yes. So that's something, maybe see which one you do. Again, neither is right or wrong. The whole goal of lettering in general is that you feel supported and comfortable. So if if you can draw like this, go for it. I do not feel comfortable, so that's why I like to stay grounded and supported. But that's just something for you to experiment with is, so I'm actually gonna keep my hand planted and just move my wrist because I feel like I'm more, or move my fingers. Dot the I.
You didn't even turn your light box back on.
I didn't.
Nice.
Oh. I was gonna say, looking at this. The other thing is that I know I've seen people talking about smudging, and sometimes this paper, yeah, I smudged it a little bit. Be mindful of that. And so especially when you're crossing the T's at the end, I do actually what I just talked about, where I lift up my hand a little bit more. But I only do that for the T's because I've learned to gain control. So you'll notice that my hand isn't touching anything rather than if my wrist was like that. So when I cross my T's, just so you know, I do it like that. So that is the lettering portion. Then, oh, I forgot to mention, I was using painter's tape, which is easier to remove than if you were to use Scotch tape, for example. Okay, so many things going on here. The final step is making a pattern around it. So I thought it'd be cool to do an exercise where, to create a pattern and just do it at different angles. So I think a lot of times, the other thing that I've seen that trips people up with lettering is that their thin on the up is a lot shakier. So I created this exercise, and it was a cool pattern in general for you to practice. So what I'd like you to do is, there's really no rhyme or reason to this, except that just draw a few in a chunk and then switch up the angle. So you can start wherever you'd like. I'm actually gonna start from the top, and I'm going to use, I don't wanna use that one, this as my guard because I know that that's smeared a little bit last time. So just to help myself out, I'm gonna draw like this. So if you want to practice thin on the up, is that I'm going to lightly graze and use this. So I'm going to draw some in a row, and then I'm going to switch it up. I realize I'm not drawing up, but I'm still just practicing my light strokes. If you want, you can practice all the up and just switch. But what we're doing is I'm just switching the angle and just drawing them different lines. So like that. And it's cool because, like I said, your hand, this is an awkward motion for your hand. And so I think it's good to practice these things. And the best, I'm gonna keep talking while I'm doing this, is practicing drills is, yes, a great thing, but the beautiful thing about this is that you can practice while you're creating something, so you feel like you're also making as well. Because I remember when I first started, I was told, like, just practice your ABCs all over every single day, and to me it just got really monotonous. And so when I created this program, I wanted to have something that you can feel accomplished at the end of this. So that's why I added in these little hidden exercises so that you can still create something and learn as well. Did that make any sense, Keenan?
Yeah, thank you for your consideration.
It's like I am just talking right now. Okay, so keep going. Also, I decided, just so you all know, I used a light color because I wanted the lettering to still stand out, but I wanted to do something different. So you can totally use a different color palette. It's cool. Everyone's is gonna look different. And if you want to also experiment, maybe you draw some of them, because the beautiful thing, which I should also say about this pen, if this is your first time using it, is when you are using this, you can tell that, like I said, you're gonna go thin on the up, and you can do really thin, and then you can also apply medium pressure, and maybe you're getting a little bit more. And then when you go thick on the down, you can apply a lot of pressure. So you can really dictate a lot with this brush pen with manipulating the pressure that you're applying. So maybe you want to mix it up and do some medium pressure and some light pressure. Totally your paper to play with. So I'm going to keep going. So again, I'm just doing groups of like 4 or 5, play around with it. Nothing special. Well, I'm making myself dizzy. Drawing so many lines. Okay. So, I think that's it. Did I do everything? Yeah, that's fun. So this is the whole project. So again, like I said, when you're doing this, I want you to be mindful of the angles. So the 4 steps we went through, I'll just recap it. We went through being aware of the angles, and that's one thing that you might not have known this before this video, that's what's happening. Being aware of the angles. 2, you have all the practice sheets that are on our website, letsmakeart.com. You can download them for free. Or if you're watching on YouTube, click show more and it'll be there. 4, oh no, I skipped 3. 3 was pencil, laying it out. That's just a step that I like to take. You don't have to do that, but if you want to, that's there. 4 is the brush pens. Have fun. I hope this was fun for everyone. I'd love to see what you make. If you did a different quote, if you did your pattern a little bit different, maybe we can talk about angles, and maybe yours are really slanted, or maybe yours are like in between and just has like a little crookedness to it. Nothing's wrong. I think it's just fun to be able to experiment and see, and everyone's different. Everyone has their own signature, and I truly believe that everyone can do this, and you have a head start, like I've always said, because you already know the ABCs. So we have a group called Let's Make Art Lettering. It's a Facebook group that you can join and you can share and come along. I will be there, and we also do a project every week, like I said in the beginning, so come join us, and I'll see you next week. Thanks, everyone.